you are from there. So. But anyway, those are the vegetables that are going to be damaged by frost. Any frost that they get touched by at all will generally kill the plant. And if not kill it, it'll set it back enough that the next one will definitely get it. Okay, so that's your first column on there. Those are not the things that we're going to be concerned with for the fall. The second column is semi-hardy vegetables, and basically that means they will tolerate a light frost. They will tolerate actually sometimes quite a bit of frost before they finally succumb to it. Lettuce is my favorite on that list. I've grown a lot of lettuces, and when you start looking at varieties, are any of you gardeners now? A little bit, okay. When you start looking at different varieties, there are some varieties that they found to be more tolerant of frost. And the lettuces are one of those things that they've done a lot of different varieties on. There are some out there that actually have winter as a part of their name. Then you know that they're a good vegetable to grow in the fall, and they'll grow for quite a while. Winter marble is one of the lettuces that I can think of. Winter density, winter marble, they have winter right in their name, so there's your key or something like that. Then the third column is the hardy vegetables. These will tolerate a hard frost. And actually, a lot of these vegetables will tolerate a freeze. I've gone out in the morning, before I had my little greenhouse, I used to grow them outside. And I grow a lot of mine are in 15-gallon nursery pots. And I had them all in a row, and the first year I did my experiment, my neighbor came over and he looked at my plants and I had them covered, and he said, well, they're going to be gone by tomorrow morning because we're supposed to get a freeze tonight. And I was like, well, that may be so, but we'll see what happens. Went out the following morning, they were frozen solid. In fact, they were so frozen it was like they'd come right out of the freezer. But I thought, well, I'll just let them go and see what happens. By the end of the day, we were eating them in a salad. Okay. So a lot of those things will do fine. You can't touch them when they're frozen because they will, the cells of the plant will actually break apart if you touch them. But the plant itself actually thaws itself out and becomes edible by dinner time with a lot of those things. Several of the winter lettuces did that, and all of my spinach, the kale a lot of that didn't even freeze solid. And that was with some minor cover that I'll talk about in a minute. But there's your list. Some of these things, if you cover them, you'll have them. If we have a winter like last year, I had my stuff in my greenhouse and I wouldn't have needed it in the greenhouse most of the winter because it was so warm. I actually had more of a problem in the greenhouse than I would have if I had left it out. So.
Well, our problem is too much heat inside.
Yeah, and see that's the problem I had last year because my greenhouse is on the south side of my house, so I get full-on sun all day, every day, and it could be 20 degrees outside, and it was over 90 in the greenhouse. Things like lettuce and spinach and things, they don't like that kind of weather. So I would have been better off last year if I had pulled the stuff out of there because I was having more of a problem having it cool. And I have a very, very small greenhouse. It's 8 by 6. It's not heated. It's heated only by the sun. I do use I experiment a lot, as I said, and I do use some heat sink items that I have in there. I basically I buy raw milk in gallon jugs. I took flat black paint, cheap paint, Walmart cheap stuff, painted them all, and filled them with water. And then I set them along the sides of my greenhouse at the base, and I also have brick in there, so that holds some heat too. Whether or not that helped, I don't know, because last year, was such a weird winter, it's hard to say. But it was pretty warm in there. And generally at night, I think my temperature at night, I think I was running about 10 degrees, about 10 degrees higher than the outside temperature, just with what I had going on in there, even on the coldest days. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did you put one layer of frost on the bottom?
Yes, I just
set it on the ground or hung them up?
Well, I have them on the ground, and I have them around the outside perimeter of the greenhouse, inside, but around the perimeter.
Oh, inside.
Yeah, inside. Now you could, if you had, well, I did add something else. Somebody came, I worked at the church here, and somebody came by the church one day and said they were on their way to the transfer station. He was getting rid of, he took apart a water softener that was broken, and he was getting rid of the parts. So my ear perked up, and I said, okay, what kind of parts are there? And he said, well, I have this container. So it's about, it's not 55 drum size, it's much smaller than that. It's maybe about this big around, stands about that high. Painted that sucker black too and filled it with water. So that was in there all winter long too. And that may have helped some. But I do a lot of experimenting like that. So my husband goes along with it. So, yeah, experimenting is a good thing, especially in gardening. And I mean, really and truly, you're only out, if I plant my own seeds, I'm only out the cost of seeds. And I mean, I buy my seeds, a lot of them through the mail. I have some of my favorite suppliers is listed on the front of that handout that has the list on there. Two of my very favorite suppliers are Petco Seeds and Johnny's Selected Seeds. In Petco, the reason I love Petco is their prices are cheap, very, very cheap. And their descriptions of their items, instead of there being one or two lines and fancy pictures, I mean, it's actually interesting to read. He's a very interesting writer, the guy that writes in the catalog. So it's a fun thing to just read. And he always has an interesting picture on the front. A lot of people are talking about canning right now, so they talk a lot about how to grow the seeds. They don't have any kinds of, a couple years ago they got rid of all their varieties that were bought out. These are the Seminis seeds, they were bought out by Monsanto, and they ditched all the varieties that they carried because they were not very good.
Where can you get that from?
Petco book. It's actually, if you look on the list there, it's FedcoSeeds.com. Okay. And you can actually download it from that site.
Oh, okay.
And I do, every year I put together like a, I guess you'd call a group order for Petco Seeds. And the more you order with this company, the better the discount. Last year we had, I think, 5 or 6 people. Abby was a part of the group that ordered, and she got 10% off. So the more people I have on my order, the better our discount.
When do you order by?
Usually I like to get my order in early.
January?
Yeah, it's usually sometime in January. Yeah, because this book will start coming out. If you get on their list, give them a call and they can put you on the list for the next one. I think usually it hits somewhere around December. It's usually I call it my Christmas gift because that's what I love to do. And then the other one that I order a lot from is Johnny's Selected Seeds. And Johnny's, and I have their site on there too. Johnny's really has an awesome list of, yes, please. They have an awesome list of what they call growing guides. Johnny's Selected Seeds is more geared toward the small commercial growers or like your truck farm kind of things. So they do sell small packets of seeds, but they will sell right up to the bulk sizes. But their growing guides on their website are invaluable. They're really awesome. And one of them, the handout that she's passing out right now, is one of their guides they have on their site. It's an interactive calendar of planting dates. And this happens to be the fall planting calendar. And the date that I plugged in at the top, it's an Excel spreadsheet. And the date that I plugged in at the top is October 20th. And that calculated all my dates. Okay? So you guys can go on and download that from Donnie's site's growing guides and put in whatever, there's so many microclimates around here, you can put in whatever your date is in your yard. My yard faces south. I get full-on sun on 90% of my yard all day, every day. So I may be able to grow some things a little bit easier than somebody who's maybe facing north and having to deal with that. So whatever is your experience, if you garden a lot in your yard, whatever your experience is, put your date in there and it'll change the dates for you. Now things like broccoli and cabbage and so on, you usually plant starts of those, and we've missed the date for those already. But there is, we found one company, okay, one company that is going to have Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, all those kind of things that you can grow for the fall with plant starts. It's called Garden Adventures Nursery out of Nixa. Okay, and we have that information
And
up
they'll have it
here.
in 2 weeks.
So
Plans will
if
be
you're-
available in 2 weeks.
If you're interested in that, the information is up here on how to get in touch with that. Okay. Next year, with your planting chart, you can start your own seeds. Okay, and it'll tell you when you can start. Okay. Questions on any of the varieties or anything like that so far? Or any of the plant types? Okay. Well, talk about planting dates. Okay, so now you have your plants and they're growing and they're doing great. Lettuce, by the way, it's very hard to sprout lettuce when we have temperatures in the 80s and 90 degrees, which is why we don't have a lot of plants here. They just don't like to grow when it's that kind of temperature.
Now, when you're saying lettuce, what kind of lettuce are you growing?
Leaf lettuce mostly. I don't know if any of us grow head lettuce.
Okay, I'm not thinking about head lettuce, but I've just come from California, and I have packages of. It's a variety of different kinds
Yes.
of leaf lettuce.
Like a mixture.
It's a, yeah, and so you just pick them when they're
Yes.
you know.
That's ideal for fall growing. Your mixtures are ideal for fall growing. Generally fall growing, a lot of times like you go in the grocery store and you buy a head of romaine, and it's a good sized head of lettuce. Generally for fall growing, I don't do that, although I do have some that I keep in my greenhouse, and it takes them literally all winter long to become head size. Because as the sun falls lower and lower in the sky, they're not getting as much sun. And the plants are really geared to grow by the available light. So even though they're in a greenhouse and it's getting concentrated and it's really warm during the day, it still takes them most of the winter to size up to what you'd find in the grocery store as a head of lettuce. So most of my varieties I grow as leaf lettuce. And you can grow romaine, butter lettuce, any of those varieties you can grow as leaf lettuce, you just cut them sooner. And basically I'll take off just leaves, I'll leave maybe 1.5 inches on there to 2 inches, and they'll just keep growing. It's cut and come again. So you cut them, they grow again, you cut them, and we ate lettuce last winter all winter long, out of the same plants. We just kept cutting them and letting them grow.
Yeah, well, that's what I did in California. That's what
I do it one of two ways, depending on how tight I plant them. Sometimes if I have a mixture of that, like she was talking about, they're planted pretty tight because I pretty much just scatter the seeds on the surface. So I just literally take the scissors and just cut across one section of it.
Do those leaves grow again?
Yes. Yeah. They
Do
will
they
grow.
make the rounded edges again?
Yes.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Yes, they do. And last winter, I brought them out in the spring, and I was still growing them in the spring from the same roots that I'd started in the fall. And I do give them a little bit of supplemental food, but not a lot, because they don't need a lot over the winter.
the leaf that you cut continues to grow, or new leaves come
Well,
out?
new leaves come out, but that other leaf does continue to grow sometimes, depending on what stage it was at when I cut it. So you'll see a combination. But yeah, they'll keep growing. Any other questions on that before we get into how to protect them with the frost? Anything I'm not covering? This is kind of they wanted it to be kind of since you're standing, just a short session, but we could talk all afternoon about this. Especially me, I could talk a lot. Okay, on extending the growing season. There's a couple of ways that you can extend your growing season. As you have in your list there, a lot of the things in the semi-hardy list, they will grow sometimes, depending on the kind of fall we have, they'll grow right up until winter time, until Christmas. I know last year we were eating salad at Christmas Day that I had grown in the fall. But last year was a fluke. I mean, we had a very strange year last year. So.
No winter.
Yeah, but we've had a strange summer, so we don't know what we're in for the fall and winter. So we could be in for the same thing. So you could be eating your own lettuce at that time. So, but if we do have, and we probably will, if we do have them predicting a frost or a freeze, there are things that you can buy to cover your plants. And this is on your resource list from Johnny's. Both Johnny's and Fedco carries this. Yeah, so do I. Because you don't need much. I mean, especially if you're growing small scale. I don't know.
Well, I just got it from Johnny's, and it's a bolt that's big around.
Yeah, but you can buy small amounts of it. You can buy, I think the smallest one that they carry, this is called Agribon. And I've used this several seasons, so you can see it's kind of dirty here and there, but this is what I use on my plants. This one is Agribon 19, I believe. I don't think it says, it just says Agribon. But anyway, this can be found in both of your lists. You can buy it as small as 83 inches wide. You can pass it around if you want to see what it feels like. And as long as 50 foot. And I think Fedco, it ran around $13 and then $8 and some odd cents shipping. The thing is, 50 foot is a long piece, because that's probably what I bought when I bought that. And I cut pieces of it off, and I reuse it year after year after year. And you can use it single layer, you can double it, you can triple it. And what it basically does, it's like, I call it my garden blanket. It covers the plants, it helps to hold some heat in around the plants. When I was growing outside before I got my greenhouse, I used that. The nice thing about that is the air gets through, the water gets through, but also the light. About 85% of the light gets through one layer of that. Now, of course, if you double it or triple it, it's going to cut down on your light a little bit more. But you could do that for the nighttime and then just uncover it during the day, which is, I've been known to do that. So, but I use that in my greenhouse as an extra layer of protection also.
I see a lot of people that just use sheets and things like that. What's the advantage of that? Is the light?
Sheets are fine. I mean, if you have something that you just want to preserve for a part of the year, or like say you're having a frost and then it's supposed to be nice next week, sheets would work fine. It's just basically something to keep the frost off the plants. That is more usable if, like say if you want to try and keep your plants growing right through Christmas or even into next year. That's going to be more helpful because it lets more light through. And I think the sheets also let some rain through, but you can always lift it and water underneath them too.
So that will help keep the heat in.
Yes.
That's more for, that's not as much of a frost protection as it is
Right,
keeping the heat
right.
in the
It'll
plants.
work for frost protection.
It would work for that.
Yes, I mean it's pretty versatile, which is, and if you buy that 50 foot piece, I mean it's going to last you a long time. Because I don't know how long that piece is off of it, but I cut pieces of it off of it. And I've got several big pieces that I just store in my greenhouse, and I reuse it year after year after year. Now, in the greenhouse, it's a little bit protected. If it's outside, it may get torn a little bit or whatever, but it'll last for several years.
And you said, I'm sorry if I missed this, but how much is like that size?
The 83Y, which is a little over 7 feet, by 50 feet long, runs about $13 in Fedco, and then there's 8 something in shipping. So. I think Johnny's is a little higher for the piece, that size, but then their shipping is a little lower. Comes out really a wash. Fedco is a seed cooperative, so if I can buy from them, I always like buying from them because I think the cooperative model is really important.
Do you directly lay that on the plants, or do you make a hoop structure?
You can do it either way. The nice thing about this is you felt how lightweight it is. It can be laid directly over the plants. And even at several layers, it's not going to be real heavy. It's very lightweight. In fact, it's so lightweight you do have to anchor the edges by using rocks or something of that nature. Or I said I grow a lot of mine in the 15-gallon nursery pots that were somebody's throwaways, by the way. My neighbor worked for the county and pulled them out of the transfer station and brought them over and said, "I bet you can use these." So that's what I grow my fall stuff in, and then I move that into the greenhouse. Because my greenhouse has a floor, I can't plant right actually. But I move them in there. But what I use in my pots like that, and if you have pots that you want to grow in, I went and bought some round peony supports. Do you know what those are? I was going to bring one of them, but I forgot them. It's basically just, you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot. It's a round circle of plastic coated wire. Has 3 legs on it, okay? It's probably about that size as far as the
Is it like a tomato cage?
It's similar to that, but it's very short. Like when you put it in the ground, you know what, everybody know what peonies are? Around here they call them peonies. Okay, yeah. Everybody's looking at me like, what is she talking about? I'm from the Northeast, in case you didn't know that. But anyway, Pennsylvania. About 50 miles north of Philly. Okay.
So did you know what you were talking about?
We're probably very close. Are you? Yeah, I'm meeting so many people from Pennsylvania.
Bristol here.
Okay, I know exactly where that is. Yeah, I'm from Allentown, Bethlehem area.
Okay.
Is where I was born and raised.
I'm from Whitehaven,
Okay.
North Allen.
Lots of Pennsylvania people here.
family reunion.
So they probably knew what I was talking about. But anyway, it's a support that you would use around your peonies. I don't know how you say it.
Peonis.
It doesn't stand very tall because you know how tall those plants get. Okay. It has 3 legs on it. probably about that long. So I take those legs and stick them down in the pots. It's the exact same size of the 15-gallon nursery pot. And then I put this over it. And that, you know, if you want to keep the fabric off the plants, or say if we're going to have a snow, that's really helpful if it's going to snow, because this will collect the snow on it. So until it stops snowing, you can go out there and clean it off. The support would be a way to keep it up off the plant so it doesn't actually flatten your plants.
Where do you get that?
This is, you can get it, both of those companies have it. And you can probably find it other places too. I know we have Hummerts in Springfield. Are any of you familiar with Hummerts? Okay, a couple of people have been there. They have a lot of this. They have a lot of organic gardening supplies. They have a lot of the structure. They have a lot of the soil amendments that you might need. They may have this. They have shade cloth, so I would think they would have this too. I'm not sure.
We have a problem here with white butterflies, you know, broccoli.
Yes, sometimes, yeah. And this is a
That's
good.
what they always use.
Yes, this will also help with that. Yes. You can. They don't let as much light through, and they're heavier. So, you know, they have a tendency to weight the plants down more if we have a rain or something like that. This, if you have this on a single layer and we have rain, not snow, because snow is different. But if lightweight snow would work, but if we have a rain, it'll go right through this and won't weight down the plants on a single layer of this, whereas the sheets would absorb a lot of the water, they become very heavy and they'll push on the plants. So that's the advantage of having this. It's not really that expensive when you think about how often you can use it. You can use it in the spring when you're planting your brassica crops, your cole crops, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, and it will keep the white cabbage moths off of them. And things like broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower, they don't need the pollinators, the bees, like your tomatoes and peppers and things, so this could stay on for its entire lifetime. So, I mean, it's usable for a lot of different things.
What's the name of the local place you said we tried this?
Might be. I've never checked for it there because I bought this mail order. Hummerts. Hummert.
That's in Springfield?
It's in Springfield.
Where is that in Springfield?
Like at Glenstone and Division.
Yeah. It's in the center part of the city.
During the main planting season, like April, May, they are open Saturday mornings. During the off season, which now would be part of the off season, they're only open during the days, I believe.
Maybe Glenstone and Chestnut.
That might be.
Chestnut, yes,
Yeah,
that's right. Chestnut.
Okay, let's see here. Another cheap idea, say we're going to get maybe a couple frosts in a row, or maybe you don't have anywhere that you can protect your plants. A really cheap way to be able to grow a few plants over the winter could be as simple as going and getting a couple bales of straw, building basically a structure, something similar to that, with your straw bales. Lay some old windows. You can find old windows at the Habitat Restore, or you can even find them sometimes sitting out for somebody's trash if they replace some windows. And lay those windows over the bales of straw. Your straw is your insulation, your windows let the light through, and it becomes a mini greenhouse. So that's another way. And it's a very, very cheap way to do it. And you can grow quite a bit. In fact, that can warm up so much that you have to be more careful about it getting too hot and cooking your plants. So, because when that sun comes through that glass, it gets really warm. Okay? For extra warmth, you got your cloth, you've got your straw bale little greenhouse there. Now it's going to get really cold. You can combine the two. I use this inside my green. I didn't last year, but I normally use this inside my greenhouse to cover my plants in my pots. And I might use several layers of that overnight, especially when it goes down lower. And use that to cover the plants, and then it's inside the greenhouse, so that gives you several layers of protection. Okay? So just some different ideas for you. Questions on any of that?
Did you go over the seeds already? Do I need to
I
hand
did.
this up?
The seed handout, did everyone get one of those?
Not yet, but
Okay, because there is a seed handout here. Okay, I don't know that there's enough, but I used that.
There's probably not enough.
We'll let you know when we want it back.
Give us one.
I've had a lot of people that come to me and say, well, where can I buy non-GMO seeds? Non-GMO is the buzzword right now.
Looking for a home for him.
For the average homeowner,
He's
you cannot buy,
It's a good breed.
quote,
What'd you call
genetically
him?
modified seeds. They may have had some pollen drift,
he's
where
the
maybe
one,
they've
Dr.
been, got some pollen or something like that from genetically modified organisms. That's very possible, especially with the corns, because a lot of the corn being planted commercially is genetically modified. However, as far as catalogs, like I said, Fedco does not sell genetically modified seeds. The home gardener really can't buy, quote, genetically modified seeds. There's a lot of paperwork involved with buying genetically modified seeds. You have contracts to sign, you have to buy it in volume. You basically have to almost give your firstborn away in order